I'm not a complete devotee of the Gary North theories about how capitalism and liberal democracy emerged from the spread of the growth of various institutions, and that these institutions locked elites into a commitment to a certain set of norm-based rules that said that it was no longer zero sum to be out of power, and that therefore you could essentially take turns rotating elites through leading institutions, with the people who lost on a specific round not feeling like they have to burn the whole system down because they didn't win this term, with the expectation that they could win another round another time, and they got co-opted enough into other institutions to feel like they had a stake in perpetuating the system. We understand this a lot in democratic theory, implicitly. Like, there are a lot of people who talk about how the most important election in a new democracy isn't the first election, it's the second election, because lots of dictators and authoritarians of various stripes are perfectly happy to get an election to get into office, but then they say, okay, I'm here now, and they pull up the drawbridge, and they're like, no more elections, or at least no more fair elections after I'm in. Common story in big chunks of Africa, big chunks of Asia. It is essentially what Putin did, and in his sort of orchestrating his president for life status. It's what Xi did in orchestrating his president for life status. Those aren't democracies. Well, Russia was a fledgling democracy, and then China, and then Putin made it not. China was never actual fledgling democracy, at least not in the time period we're talking about, or really ever. But they had a system that was very similar in the Northian sense to sort of the medieval Europe, right, where you basically had aristocrats who ruled the system, and you had a system of, or maybe more like imperial China, right? You had a system that designated the person who was the top guy, but there was some sort of rules-based order, at least among an aristocratic elite, for determining access to power, power sharing, division of resources, and all the rest. And Xi got rid of that to make himself, essentially a king. Longtime listeners know that I'm very very skeptical of these modern versus ancient distinctions about how systems work. At least modern, about how systems work that aren't liberal democratic. I think all forms of authoritarianism, they have slightly different rules and arguments for about who should be in power, but the way they operationalize power is very similar. Again, North Korea is a monarchy as much as it's anything. So anyway, like, how did I get on this? Oh, right. So the basic thing about liberal democracy and most systems, most systems that aren't about just sort of raw authoritarian power, is this willingness to abide by the rules, even if you don't like the outcome, and live to fight another day, in a peaceful way, right? I mean, it's like, I bristle sometimes at analogies to sports, but, baseball doesn't work unless all the teams agree on the rules, all the teams agree to defer to the umpires and the commissioner for disputes about the facts about who violated what rule, and they have to abide by the score. And if they don't, it's not a game anymore, right? It's not a game people want to watch. If both teams leave the World Series saying they won, then what's the point of watching the game? You need clarity and finality to these sorts of things. And the reason I went all big thumbsuck, big think was, one, because I'm just stream of consciousness this, but two, I really worry about the health of the system when so many people are talking so stupidly about all of this. Like, you had Lindsey Graham on TV last night in near tears talking about how this will destroy the country. Really? Destroy the country. So, like, we're that weak of a country that, I'll get to that in a second. I'm so fed up with this BS.